Welcome to another episode of It Really Works. You're here with
Beata.
and I'm Marcus. In today's episode, we thought we would address some common problems that we've seen a lot of our friends, family, and colleagues go through, and some, of course, that we've experienced ourselves and been pretty good at overcoming. And that's quite frankly dealing with this general idea that life is not fun, it's not good, it's not great, there's a lot of stress, a general unhappiness with where you might be currently in your situation in life, whatever it might be. So what we want to share is what would you call it? A technique or
Yeah, technique, I think we can call it technique.
all right, we'll call it a technique. A technique that we have applied that has been remarkably successful in helping us get through difficult times and frankly directing them toward a life that we currently have right now that is just the opposite, one that's filled with a lot of joy, prosperity,
Less stressful.
far less stressful than what it was before, and getting even better. So basically what that is, and that is the use of affirmations, but affirmations, this is very important, affirmations with the right associated feeling. Okay, so what that basically means is you have a thought, and that thought that you have has a corresponding positive emotion and feeling. So let's just say you have a memory you think about growing up and you had a lot of fun, and that causes your chest to kind of get warm. You get that really nice fuzzy feeling. That's sort of what we're talking about. When you look at a good memory, there's often a good feeling associated, or a bad one, depending which memory you choose. This, what we're talking about, is selecting the right thought with the right feeling and applying it in your moment right now. So let's kind of explain how this works. Like, what do you actually do in a situation? Do you wanna start that explanation, or do you want me to?
Yes, I have a great example.
Oh, you do? Okay.
This example is to find you, Marcus,
Did
actually.
did you hear that, everyone? She's gonna use our relationship as an example. That
Yeah,
could be
because I
touchy.
was in many relationships and
Wait,
I wasn't.
you were with men before me?
Yes,
How dare you?
as I think it applies to you as well.
I've never been with a man.
No, with a man, no, maybe, but with a woman, yes. But yeah, it's really like a great example
No, actually,
because
it's an
I
excellent
was
example.
kind of frustrated,
Frustrated,
uh,
and it can be frustrating.
and it was frustrating actually because for a long time I wasn't happy, to put it simple.
Yeah.
And I started to apply this affirmation. So what I did actually, I just wrote it down. I tried to read it out loud as often as I could.
You did it out loud?
Out loud, yes.
Why did you do it out loud?
Because it works even better.
How did it work better? Because you felt it
I read
more?
it, yeah. I read in the book that this is how it should be done and
interesting.
how it works.
Okay.
It really works, and I applied it. And it's very important also, like to do this affirmation in trying to be relaxed. Don't force it, because if you force it, you will not achieve anything. So let's say that it's very important to be relaxed. Do it. The best moment will be just before you go to bed, because normally we just try to unwind, try to be relaxed. And it's a great also opportunity for our mind and for our state being, no? We are normally more relaxed and more receptive for this
So
thoughts.
what would you do? How do you apply your technique? So you said you would write something down.
I write it down. I try to read it out loud
Okay.
very often.
And then do you try to feel what you're
Yes,
reading?
and I was also trying to visualize because at some point, if you repeat something with feelings, with a positive feeling, of course, you are able also to see this. Like you
Like it's
close
happening
your
right now?
like you close your eyes and try to visualize what you are reading. And then, if you repeat this, it's always like you learn it by heart. No?
Oh,
So
sure.
it's very, very pleasant at some point.
Right, of
And it's
course.
always a great way to relax and to fall asleep, because often happened that I was reading, I was visualizing it, and I fell asleep. And
Ah,
then, be patient with this, because of course is not the thing that will happen from one day to another.
mhm.
Just be patient, be consistent, because it's very important also to be consistent, and believe in this. And then that's it, actually. And it works. Right now, I am with the perfect man, and I am very happy.
What did you take any actionable steps? In other words, did you go on dates? Did you expect to meet the right person?
At some point, I just totally changed my focus. So because I think I was tired.
Okay.
With all these relationships, doesn't work, didn't work well. So at some point I said, oh, okay, so not a big deal. I can be alone. I can manage it by myself.
Would
Not a
you
big
say
deal.
that you sort of let it go? Like you were
Yes,
like, whatever.
exactly,
If it happens, it
exactly.
happens. If it doesn't, it
Yes,
doesn't.
yes.
Okay. And everyone who's listening, pay attention to this for a second because I have a little point.
Hmm.
So you let it go, and then what happened?
Yeah, and then it was very. I couldn't believe it at first, because I was learning English, and I met this teacher,
That would be me at that time, at least.
and something was going on.
Yeah. This right here is a little controversial.
But it was strange,
Teacher
although,
student.
because at the first appointment with you, when we had this lesson online,
Right.
when I saw you, it was so strange. I remember it. I felt strange because I saw you, and I had this sensation like I already know you.
You see what's really interesting about that? I did not, right? I didn't have any sensation whatsoever at first, other than you're clearly very attractive, and that's just the first thing that any guy is going to see. Just to add a little tidbit here, I as well had kind of written down to a lesser extent than she did, but I had this idea of the right woman and that I would meet the right woman and it would happen whenever it does. And I mentioned a moment ago of letting it go without realizing it. I just thought, oh, it'll happen whenever it does. I'm not going to be particularly concerned about it, but I always remained open. I think you did too, right?
Yes,
Always
yes.
remained
And
open.
very important also, this is like an advice to anybody who is listening to us. So when you write down this affirmation, whatever it will be the topic.
Sure.
So like in my case was about finding the right man. Write all the details that you are looking. Like, for example, I wrote all the details that I am looking in a man. And this is really fascinating, because you have all these details that I wrote down.
So I have actually seen these details that she's talking about, and I have to admit, it is crazy uncanny how it is exactly the kind of person that
Yeah,
I am.
because it
It's
really works.
it
If you
does,
do
yeah.
it in a proper way, it really works.
And this is definitely not luck because just to kind of give some context, without going into the background on this, at that time, a little bit of a side business, I was doing some online tutoring and I met Beata online and she wanted to learn English and one thing led to the next. Obviously, when I was teaching her, I was very professional about it, but we had the opportunity to speak outside of the classroom and one thing led to the next. First, it was just a casual thing, and then suddenly, over the course of a few
Exactly.
weeks, months, it got obviously a lot more intimate, right? And we started dating, what, maybe about 6 months to a year afterwards, because it was a little
Yes.
slow at
Yes.
first, right?
Hmm.
But it's kind of crazy how it works because this is a really great example of how affirmations and whatnot will come together and how so much of this, I like this example, is because it's a lot of people are looking for the right kind of relationship It's something where obviously we will remain open to dating if that came down to it. And I dated a few women during the interim. Nothing really came from it. I think you dated a couple of guys here and there,
Yes.
and it didn't work. And thought, okay, well, whatever. When we were least concerned about it, and frankly, when I least expected it, this is how she came into my life. And I think largely that was the same for you because there's a certain passivity that she was kind of referencing a moment ago. This is one of the reasons why when you say, for example, that you're well or I've got the right person, there might be a mental resistance. If you can say these things with feeling before going to bed, fatigue, being tired, wears that resistance down. So you become a lot more receptive.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, this is a topic, in all honesty, that we can go into for hours. And rather than bombarding you with a lot of the same things you've heard before, we might revisit this in a later episode. Just to kind of summarize, what we're trying to get at is simply this. Bad feelings and bad thoughts, they only compound the situation that you're in. It's not going to help you. Ask any psychologist, they'll tell you the same thing. Any scientist will refer to the same principle. Negativity, compounded by negativity, is going to give you a bad result, plain and simple. The thing that you got to try to do is when that moment comes up, you want to try to shift that feeling. It's very difficult to keep track of thoughts, obviously, but you definitely know how you feel because you're going through it. The moment you catch yourself feeling bad, try to go ahead and visualize or think of a thought of where you'd like to be, have a feeling with it of what it feels like to actually be in that place, and then don't be concerned about it.
Yeah, and also you can apply it in a kind of difficult situation. Like another example, it was very challenging for me when I discovered after I did some medical exams that I have a lot of cyst
Yeah.
in my body,
Yeah.
and it was really like it was very stressful for me.
Yeah.
And but then again, I tried to apply the affirmation. I told myself, or I was telling myself, no, I am totally healthy. I am healthy, I am well, and I don't have any kind of cyst in my body. After like 3 months, I needed to repeat the exam. And guess what? Nothing was there.
No cyst whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. So this is again the confirmation. If you believe, if you apply this affirmation in your life, and if you are doing it constantly, like if you are doing it every day, also try to do it every day and believe in this, and it really works. And it can be applied for many things.
So what you're bringing up here is a really great point, and we're going to slowly start wrapping this episode up. Uh, the truth of the matter, especially when it comes to things like health, there's a lot of medical documented evidence that supports this. There are concepts known as neuroplasticity. There are things that are referenced as intentional neural patterning that rewire the body. Dr. Joe Dispenza, you can look him up. He's done a lot of research on this, pretty well documented. There's another, I think, review called the Smithsonian Review. They brought up an article about how peptides, the molecules of emotions, are linked with immune responses and how the body kind of changes in that regard. So this is not some out there make believe or magical thinking sort of way of approaching this. There's a lot of practical things you can do for the body. Your cysts disappearing allowed the body to heal itself.
Exactly, and you can also find this topic like regarding affirmation in many books, like for example Joseph Murphy.
Yeah, he's a big one,
Yeah.
Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Joseph Murphy, another is Brian Tracy.
Yeah.
They always mention about the role of affirmation, the positive result that one can achieve with applying affirmation.
Yeah.
But you need to do it, of course, in a correct way, as we discussed already.
Sure, and that correct way basically is you try to visualize where you'd like to be, make sure there's a feeling, and I like to add one little component to this. After that, of course, you've got to take the appropriate action. And it's, as strange as this might sound, and it's difficult not to worry, but you don't need to be concerned about how you get there. Now, that's not to say that miraculous things will happen for you like it did arguably for Beata and myself to a lesser extent. That's a story for another time. But the long and short of it is, you will get to where you want to be. Now, maybe a medical procedure is necessary. Okay, fine, so be it, but it will go well and you'll get the right one. Or maybe you won't need anything at all. That is entirely possible as well. Be open to whatever that process is. Maybe you'll get a new job right away. Maybe it'll take a few months. Perhaps you become an entrepreneur. Maybe the woman that you meet is next door. Maybe she's online. Maybe he is right around the corner. You never know. But if you remain open to it and you enjoy yourself and you add this positivity, you'd be surprised what can happen.
Yeah, also make fun or take
Have fun.
have fun with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
relax,
have
have fun.
fun, relax, and just believe and try it.
Yeah, give it a shot. And the truth is, like the title of the podcast, I mean, it really does work. We're living proof of it. And obviously, we're not giving legal, medical, or financial advice. We'd never do that.
Exactly.
But this is something worth exploring. Check it out. Give it a shot. Give it some time. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you've experienced it before, let us know. Put in the comments. If you've tried it and it didn't work, let us know why. I would like to hear what you
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
And
curious.
yeah, I'd like to see kind of what ended up happening with that. And maybe this is a way to kind of re-explore that. If you've tried it before, it didn't work, perhaps consider this approach and see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Until the next time,
Thanks you very much, and have a great day.
thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks again, everybody.